Today on Black Twitter Talk, we are talking Solange's new album, A Seat at the Table, Marvel's Luke Cage, and Kid Cudi and his depression. Stay tuned. Hey. Hey guys. This is that new Solange. I know you guys are into it, and if you're not into it, where have you been? Oh my god, this one is Cranes in the Sky. I love her so much. I'm your host, Angie Skates. You can find me on Twitter at what's my Twitter handle? Angie_Skates, and you can find me on the gram at big_Ange.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Kales. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Urban Gypsy LA.
Thanks for joining us today on Black Twitter Talk.
We missed you guys.
I missed y'all too. I know y'all been vibing out to Solange, and if you haven't, we're gonna talk about it all today, so you can hip yourself and get into it. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So Solange, most of you guys know her as Beyonce's younger sister. She's not gonna like that very much.
Yeah, as the younger sister, I can speak and say nah.
Yeah,
nah,
you know, and she's done the work. She's paved her own lane.
Hello.
And I've been a fan of Solange for a minute. Her first studio album, Solo Star, I wasn't really that into. But the second one,
everything.
Soul Angel and the Hadley Street Dreams, she dropped that in 2008.
Yes.
And she really channeled that Motown sound. I feel like she had Diana Ross down to
Supremes.
Yeah, she had that sound down. Like, she did that. She had another album. It was an EP actually in 2012 called True. And I think for that one, what she did was explore a little bit of pop.
Yeah, that one was way more experimental.
Yeah.
Very a collage of different sounds and just trying new things.
It was very upbeat and happy and, you know. But this one, A Seat at the Table. Oh my God. It's like, let the musicians be your physicians, because everything that she was offering up in this album was very healing. We talk a lot about race, grief, anxiety, reclamation, power. It's very heavy in that sense, but it's still ethereal in its vibes, you know?
Yes, which I think is so hard to do, and she just did an amazing job of talking about such heavy topics, sad topics, painful things, but when you play it, you're so vibey. It's very like a Sunday morning type feel.
It's every day, all day. It's a meditation on Black womanhood.
Seriously. So,
go ahead.
Can we just say, though, you might start off feeling all ethereal and happy, and then next thing you know, you could be in tears.
I know. I was in Colorado this past week, and I'm listening to it as I'm driving down from Aspen into Colorado Springs and Denver. There are moments where I'm on the highway, and I'm just like, oh my God, Solange.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's times where I'm like, hey, Solange.
There's times when I'm going from, hey, to, I don't understand.
It's so good. It's so good.
But it's like a healing situation too. It feels good to know that somebody else is dealing with some of the same things that we're dealing with, and somebody that's on the level of Solange, you know, is like
a lot of people
reassuring.
Misconstrue having wealth or power and say that because you have these things you're not oppressed, or you can't relate to, you know, the everyday lives of Black people in America, and
or that money equates happiness.
Right. And it absolutely does not. She has 21 tracks on this album.
Amazing. A lot of interludes.
She has her dad, Matthew, does an interlude right before the track Mad with Lil Wayne. And he talks about his experience as a childhood when he was one of the first students to go to a segregated school in the South. And Mama Tina does a skit on there where she talks about embracing her Blackness and how she always knew it was beautiful.
And being prideful, and how it doesn't mean that we're putting down other races to be prideful in our own.
Yeah. And then she also has Master P,
which was so left field to me, but so
he was right on time.
Point, yeah.
Like, I felt like he was really talking to me, like having an intimate tete-a-tete with us about his experience. And his narration kind of just weaved everything
really
together.
did.
It was like a very well put together tapestry of a meditation on Black womanhood.
Right. I really enjoyed it because sometimes I forget about Master P and everything that he accomplished. And when we talk about it, it's like, oh, yeah, you can't forget about Master P. But oftentimes we do because we don't see him in our face every day right now. So to have him on the album, I really appreciated it, and it reminded me and it gave me hope, like you really can come from the bottom and really finesse the game.
Absolutely. She released so many things around this album, and I feel like they gave it so much context and made it a lot stronger. I just want to say shout out to Solange, because this album, A Seat at the Table, is number one
in the country,
and I feel like it's very unexpected for her, because I don't think that that's what she was really aiming for.
It's her first number one album, and I don't think that was her goal. When you listen to it, it doesn't sound like I'm trying to get a number one album. It definitely sounds like this is what I'm going through as a Black woman. This is what I know other Black women around me are going through. And if it only touches a few Black women, then I've done my purpose. I've done my job.
This one is for us. Hey, that's
for us.
Yeah. So she releases a short documentary too to complement it. She also releases 2 visuals for this project.
Yes.
One being "Cranes in the Sky," which is the song that we played in the intro. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. And then she also does a visual for "Don't Touch My Hair." And we can all relate to that.
Don't do it.
She said, "These are the feelings that I wear." Okay.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch my crown.
It's crazy. Like I said, I was out of town, and I just flew back in a couple of nights ago, and one of the flight attendants, she goes, I love your hair, but I bet you hate it.
What?
And I'm like, well, actually, I love it too.
Why?
And
did she explain herself? What did she mean by
I didn't
that?
give her an opportunity to explain it. I was tired. I listened to Solange all the way home, on my flight, and I was really feeling myself. And I just looked at her, and I just was like, actually, I love it.
But I think that's kind of what the song is saying. It's like literally we do deal with people literally trying to touch our hair, but it's also like figuratively don't touch on the topic of my hair. Like, stop talking about it. Like, leave me and my hair be and let us flourish and do our thing. Like, we don't need to discuss it.
Let us be great.
And then the video, I love the video. I took time to watch the videos.
Which
because
video?
Both of them. I'm talking about the hair one right now since we're talking about that song. But I didn't watch the videos right away because I feel like it impacts the way I interpret the song.
Me too.
So I waited, but when I watched it, I noticed 2 different scenes that I really enjoyed. Was the one when they're in the orange and they do like that 5th grade pose with the knee out.
Yes.
What are you pointing at?
Talking to the mic.
Oh, because I'm leaning over trying to do the pose myself.
Yeah.
When they do that 5th grade pose, and then they juxtapose it to this other one when they're dressed up very like high class, high sedity, and it reminds me of the fashion world. And so it makes me think of when I'm a young girl with my puff balls and whatever, and then also as a grown woman seeing our hairstyles on the runway and not giving any credit. It just made me think about that.
I think what her visuals made me think of is just the regality of Black people and how we always seem to feel like this, no matter what circumstances we're confronted with, no matter what the reality of our everyday lives are as Black Americans in this country. I feel like we kind of just always have this air of regality, and she kind of gives that visual imagery to match that.
That's true.
It's so effortless, and it's very goddess and just ethereal, and it's...
Yeah, I was going to say that too about Cranes in the Sky. I feel that there's definitely a touch on the idea of like sisterhood in that one, and I love it because it's very different from Lemonade, which I felt was very strong about this idea of sisterhood. But in this video, it was that, but it was more of a goddess feel. It was more of a effortless, we're just
cosmic,
laying here
floaty.
and we're just naturally everything.
We are
powerful, beautiful.
One of the things that I really did like about this project is that she released a documentary that showed us the different phases of sonically her putting the sounds together, the melodies together. And you, as an artist myself, when I have things that come to mind and I try to get them out, like, you expect them to come out as the finished product. But seeing her documentary just like move through the different phases, it inspired me so much to know that it's okay that when you have this idea in your head and you push it out, it doesn't always sound like how you think it should sound like in your head. You have to work at it. You have to engineer it. You have to. She isolated herself on her farm in Louisiana, a sugarcane farm in New Iberia, and it was a progress over the course of 8 years. Was it 8 years?
No, I think
4
it was
years.
Like 4 years.
4
but
years.
Cranes in the Sky. She said she
wrote
got that
that
song
8 years
from
ago.
Raphael Sadiq 8 years ago.
Yeah, and he played bass on this track. Q-Tip did or not on this track, but on this album. Q-Tip did a lot of drums on this album. It was just.
Can we just say Raphael Sadiq has been killing it though too? Because he did the music for Underground,
and he did music on Luke Cage too,
and he did this album. So he's been
Raphael Sadiq been.
I know, but but that's the other thing too about like Solange and how I think people are just now catching on to her fire of greatness.
We knew about it.
We not people.
Okay.
We be on it.
We goddesses too.
But I'm saying the masses are catching on, but I think she's another one, like, let's say like Raphael Sadiq, she's been on. I feel like she's a ghostwriter. We're probably seeing some of her lyrics that are our favorite songs and we wouldn't even know about it. She's been doing this and she's been great about it. No, I know you know about it, obviously, Heifer.
Anyway, if you haven't checked it out, A Seat at the Table, it is an emotionally charged autobiography of what it's like to be a Black woman in this country.
And the title and the cover with the clips in the hair, though.
She's like, a Spanish woman shot the cover because it reminded me a lot of Frida Kahlo. Yeah. And it was a young Spanish photographer. I think she's like 26 years old who shot the cover. Dope. And like even all the artwork, it's just so dope. Like seriously. You can tell this was a labor of love for her.
I liked how in Don't Touch My Hair too, she went with the African bead and stuff because they haven't done that yet. And I just like it.
But in the visuals, did you see how she was praise dancing her butt off?
That part. She
was going in.
Don't touch my. And she had one arm here, like don't touch me, but then she's like praising God. That was dope. I like that part too.
Solo. You better
and
get
the all
it.
White, yep.
That was great. Did that. Solange, I love you. I've been in love with you. I already knew you was a number one superstar, and I'm just glad that. I don't want to share you with the world, but if I have to share you with the world, I'm glad that it was an album like this that's giving you your recognition that you absolutely deserve. Because
you don't want to share certain artists because it starts to play out some of the songs and stuff, and it doesn't feel as special. But then I'm glad that there are more women who are like becoming more aware and able to be. To decipher what she's talking about. And that was something else we were talking about. She's the type of artist if you listen to this album again and a year from now, you're gonna pick up new things like you would from Erykah Badu. There's so many layers.
Like her metaphor, crane in the sky. I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
I'm not sure yet. I looked up a few different cranes. There's the bird, there's the metal ones that you work. There's so many different kinds. I'm like, what you talking about?
Yeah, I don't
Solange?
really know if I know what you're talking about, but that's one of my favorite cuts on the album. So I'm gonna just keep listening until I have that one light bulb moment. I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tweet at you. Let's talk about Luke Cage.
Okay.
So Luke Cage is the new addition to the Marvel series. They just had a premiere on Netflix. Stars Mike Coulter. And there's been a lot of mixed reviews about it. Honestly, I think it's one of the blackest things that I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And I'm not mad at it. However, a lot of people say that, the writing was flat, the acting was flat, that it was really corny. And I'm just like, what Marvel series isn't corny? Like Jessica Jones, corny.
Jessica Jones was corny.
Jessica Jones. She's a joint. She was corny.
She was corny.
Daredevil, corny.
Daredevil, I couldn't get through Daredevil.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., corny.
I like it. It's corny. Luke Cage, it has some corny moments.
I think, what Luke Cage reminds me of?
What?
Corny dads. Like, it's like the Bible of corny dad jokes. And I don't mind the corny dad jokes because honestly, it's the corny dads that kind of just support the framework of the
feel
black.
like it's
hey, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
To support the framework of the black family structure, and I feel like this was for them, low key.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's an unbearable corny. It's just like a few punchlines that's like, okay, that's cool. Like, let's keep going though. Like the overall storyline of a black superhero. When have we ever seen that?
In Harlem, that wears his hoodie in homage to Trayvon Martin that was gunned down.
Like, come on.
Like, is this a superhero that we've been waiting for? I don't know.
I feel like if we can watch all white movies and TV shows, if we can get through a Tyler Perry show or movie, like we can watch Luke Cage and find something good in it.
Comparing it to other black content, but like there's so many other predominantly white productions that are corny, and it's a space for that. So why not?
But that's what I think too. I don't think anybody who is not enjoying Luke Cage that much is not. It's not to say that it's not good. I just think right now we have so much content, black content right now, that you have choices. For a long time we didn't have choices. Like Luke Cage would have been like the only thing, so we're all gonna watch it. But now it's like, oh well, you could go ahead and tune into Get Away with Murder, you can tune into Queen Sugar, you can tune into Empire. Like we all have choices, so whatever you like, I feel like there's something for you at this point, which is a great thing.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that felt uncomfortable by the unapologetic blackness of Luke Cage, though, and they took to Twitter to talk about it a little bit.
Did.
And a lot of them were saying that an all-black world is unrealistic, and I'm just like, have you ever been to a black neighborhood? Because the only white people sometimes are the cops, and I think one of my favorite things about this series is the gender dynamics in relationships. Like, I've never seen so many black women in one series with natural hair over 40 that are just real regular and relatable. Like, I've never seen so many in one series.
Like, it's like 16 different women, all look different, all have a different vibe, all different characters.
Man,
that's what I think I enjoy too. And you like, they're all like over 40. Like, we don't see that. Like, ooh,
and they're all very
poppin'.
different. Like, because being black it's not a monolithic experience. We are all very diverse, and that range is represented on this show, and that's one of the things that I really liked about it. Another thing that I really liked about it is the cinematography.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, like the scene with the villain. What is his name? Cottonmouth. I like how he's always framed up around the Biggie poster.
And then that one scene where he like moves forward, you can't even see Biggie anymore. You just see him in the crown on top of his head. That was beautiful.
That's so good. And then some of the scenes where Luke Cage is framed up, it's like you can see his silhouette, and then like the camera angle has him, larger than life, and he looks like God.
Right.
Like it's shot very well, I think. And even if it's not your cup of tea, the writing falls flat, the acting falls. How many series have you watched where it was kind of real corny?
I mean, I like it. I think what I'm enjoying too is seeing that other black men are enjoying it, because what other character can they relate to in this fashion? Like, can you name me another like
black superhero?
If we don't even make it a super
Pootie Tang.
Boo. Exactly. And I don't know no black man that can relate to no Pootie Tang. So another like even just a strong black male figure, like most times they're not represented well in media at all. So I think I'm enjoying watching them enjoy seeing themselves in this character.
Yeah, that's true. I like all the black women stuff.
I do too. That's the part thing. I like that part too. So
shout out to Chia Hodari Coker, and then Charles Murray, who's one of
the writers.
Yeah, the executive producers on it, who's a friend of ours. Like, shout out, Charles.
Boom.
Do your thing.
Get it.
Can we talk about Kid Cudi though? Have you guys heard what happened with Kid Cudi?
I just heard recently.
So he put up a very public post on Facebook where he talks about mental health. He says a lot of incredible things to me. He says that he's ashamed that he's been living a lie this whole time. As long as we've known him, he hasn't been well. He says that he's a damaged human. He has a raging violent storm in his heart at all times. He says that depression and anxiety rule him, and he doesn't leave the house sometimes. And like when I was reading his statements, like I can feel my heartstrings being tugged on because I can so relate to him.
I can too, for sure.
And he checked himself into rehab for depression and suicidal thoughts. And I think what is even more stunning than his admission publicly is the support that he's rallied.
Which I think is beautiful, like, because he kept reiterating how he felt bad, and he kept apologizing and saying like he's so sorry because he has to basically go take care of himself right now. So that part was very sad to me, because I think that's what happens with a lot of people that are dealing with depression, and those people who have decided to commit suicide is because they feel like they're a burden on those people around them because they haven't been able to change their attitude or change their perspective.
But he also says that he's spent a lot of time being there for other people, catering to other people, neglecting himself in that respect. And he
most people do, because a lot of times you don't know when someone's dealing with depression. They still move throughout their day sometimes, and like will push to get through and push to be there for you because maybe you're depressed too, you know, and you just try to be there for them. So it was really sad.
It's really sad, but I think it's interesting that he actually did finish his album first, and then he decided to take care of that too.
He basically said like, I did my best, you guys, to handle all my business before I went. And I think that's the other thing that ends up leading to people to committing suicide is because they feel like they have to finish
and put on for other people.
Yeah, like they can't let everybody down.
I think it's time for hip hop to have a serious conversation about mental health, and not only among men, but I think that one thing that we have slighted in this whole dynamic of this conversation is how it affects women. Do you remember when Kehlani went in for attempting suicide not too long ago? She received so much flack for that, like so much backlash, and the amount of support that Kid Cudi has garnered, and not to take anything away from him or his situation, but Kehlani has not received that, and she's still getting talked messed about in juxtaposition to this whole Kid Cudi thing.
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with delivery, like Kid Cudi. What's wrong with me? Kid Cudi went on Facebook and like composed this like letter and everything, and I think Facebook is a different audience to begin with, and Kehlani was more so on Instagram and posting pictures of her actually in the hospital. Not saying that makes it okay, but I do feel that for some reason people on those platforms for some reason just feel entitled to comment about things that they have no idea what they're talking about.
I feel like the same ones that are rallying in support for Kid Cudi are the same ones that were talking mess about Kehlani.
Well, I don't know who each person is, but I feel like regardless, if for all those people who did have Kid Cudi's back, like I even saw Megan Good was on there and she left like a very lengthy comment, and I don't know, maybe Megan Good reached out to Kehlani too. I don't know.
I didn't see it publicly.
I didn't, and I wasn't looking for it, to be honest. I did my own energy shift to try to send her good vibes because I felt bad personally.
I do too. But I think she's an amazing artist.
Yeah, she's so dope.
She's brilliant.
But let's keep it real. Most artists, we already know they're on that thin line between genius and insanity, and so a lot of them are dealing with it, and it sucks that she didn't get the same support.
She definitely deserves it, and I think that hip hop definitely should address the mental health issue in its music and in its culture, and be inclusive to women, and not just embrace and support artists like Kid Cudi, but Kehlani needs that support as well.
I think we're talking a lot more about mental health in general
than we ever have before.
Of everything that's been going on. I think we're all struggling in different ways, and we're all used to coping and just compartmentalizing things, and now
that hasn't been working.
It's
so
not
I
working
feel like
anymore.
We're trying to figure out something new.
Yeah.
One thing that I do really love that kind of just helps me cope is art, and I've been seeing a lot of great content out there that helps articulate some of the things that we deal with on the day-to-day. One thing being, in addition to Solange, in addition to Luke Cage, Ava DuVernay. Yo,
Ava, where you at, boo? Like,
she's been so busy working with Queen Sugar. She has the new Disney movie coming out, Wrinkle in Time. She just dropped a documentary on Netflix called, what is it, 13th?
13th.
And there's going to be a show tonight, a little bit later on BHL, and it's going to air on Popcorn Talk as well. Check that out at 11. But this documentary, it talks about racism in America. It talks about the disproportional incarceration of Black people. It kind of just plots the evolution from becoming a slave to a criminal and how that encompasses the mass incarceration in prison industrial complex as it stands today.
In the Title 13th, it's being pulled from the 13th Amendment, where they basically say that slavery no longer exists unless if you're a criminal.
It as a form of punishment
For criminals. So, man, it's like we talked about, it was nothing necessarily new that was brought up, but the format and the way she did it, the people she chose to narrate, like, it was phenomenal, you guys.
She had
phenomenal.
Angela Davis in there. Newt Gingrich said a lot of profound things. Jabari Cobb was one of the experts that she had in there. And what she basically did was narrate from our perspective of Black Americans what it was like to go from slavery to Jim Crow to the criminalization of being Black in America and how that manifested in mass incarceration. And she plotted pretty much from the time of the 13th Amendment loophole until present day, how we got here.
Literally from Civil War all the way till today with Donald Trump and Hillary.
Yeah, and it's just like the timing of this piece is uncanny. The way that she presents the information, it's crazy. And I think if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to watch it. It is very heavy, but it is so accurate.
It's heavy because it's the truth, and it's not being sugarcoated, but it's not being told in a way that I think it's you can digest it. It's in a way that I think this documentary is going to be used to educate so many kids. Like, this is something that we're definitely going to see in schools or whatever.
For sure.
And I think it's not just for Black people to watch, because, you know, we already know most of this stuff. Like, we live it. Our families and cousins and friends and everything, like, we see it. So I think this is a documentary for people who don't understand why we go so hard about some of these topics. Like, this is for everybody. Like, you can learn so much from this documentary.
She says in an interview that criminal justice is not a term for her. She's from Compton. She lived this every single day, much like even myself and you and I feel like other Black people in this country. It's not something that's relative, and that's something that we have to look up to understand, to get it to grasp it. It's something that we deal with every single day. And she takes us from the intricacies of the plantation to the prison system, and it's mind-blowing.
It really is mind-blowing, you guys. Like, I'm just replaying things in my head. I don't even know what to say. She had also in the interview said that I'm not good at self-care. I cried a lot making this film. And so you're definitely, if you are human, you probably should feel some emotional.
I definitely wept. Like, at the end of this, I wept like Jesus said or did.
And the way she visually shows you the timeline and how the increase continued to like every 5 years it was like this huge increase, and then when Bill Clinton became president, it was like even
prior to that, she talks about Reagan and then Nixon and how the war on crime, and then it changed to the war on drugs, but still the people that it affected the most and the most negatively were people of color, and how they criminalized behaviors and things that were pertinent to our survival in impoverished environments. And it's crazy, y'all.
And then, you know, we always talk about with the prison industrial complex how there's the different companies and the money behind it and where it comes from. She tells us the name of the group, ALEC, ALEC, who was responsible for basically making the laws like 3 strikes and the crime bill and all that stuff that no matter if you're Democratic or Republican, you end up enforcing, because they're the ones that are pushing that to you.
Because they have
the money and the power,
the political and the profiteering interest in that. So they're the ones that are creating these laws and the legislation that is being passed and pushed through the Senate and other,
Yeah, man. Okay, the other thing. Sorry, did I cut you off again?
Go. You've been doing that.
I'm excited today.
Okay.
The other thing about it's 1 in 3 black men are in jail. And we've been talking about, like, how it affects families, the black family and relationships. And it was just interesting watching that because I had a conversation with a few of my homegirls and how that has been coming up, that they're on dates with these men who are ex-convicts.
Like, been up in the feds for years.
13 years.
15 years. And they come out. And it's just like, is this... I noticed that there are a lot of black women in my lives that are single, and other women in other races, they're able to partner up and do this thing, and I'm just like, where is it?
Where are they?
They're in
Where are they
jail?
doing? And then when you meet them, they may have just came out of jail. So then it's this decision: do you deal with? Because we all know that jail doesn't do any mental rehabilitation.
It doesn't do
anything. It just messes you up.
Us up.
So it's like, do you deal with that? Are you going to stand by this man and support him and through his PTSD and whatever else that you might not even know about? Because he might not even know about, because he ain't even addressed it yet. So he can't even warn you.
How does he even work? Like, can he get a job as an ex-felon? He doesn't have rights to vote as an ex-felon.
Can't even get life insurance? Did they say that on the documentary?
It's crazy. There's so many elements to it, and it's just like, I don't know what to do. I just know that this documentary is something that you need to look at for sure.
Yes, everybody. Like, if you watch it with your friends. Send it to your friends. Like, encourage everybody to watch it, because I just think the first step is just knowledge. And I enjoyed this too, because I feel like we talk about a lot of things sometimes, and I get, like, even on the last episode, I wasn't fully here because I had this feeling of, I'm tired of talking about it. What can I do? I feel powerless in this situation. But seeing this documentary and seeing how well Ava depicted the story and broke it down, it just tells me and reminds me that we all have our purpose and part in what we're doing here, like...
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a piece like this that articulates it from our perspective in such a way that it's able to extrapolate the lines of our oppression to capitalism, to mass incarceration, and how that has evolved over time from slavery to Jim Crow into what it is currently. And it's something that you definitely need to see. And I don't care if you don't agree with it. I don't care if you have a different perspective. It is something that is valid, and you need to see it. Point blank in the period. Let's talk about Jordan Peele.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! Have you seen his trailer? Get Out.
Lord.
Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so Jordan Peele, you may have known him from Key and Peele, which they're like a comedic duo.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote, directed, and shot this psychological thriller that is race-based. And basically what happens is there is an interracial couple, and it's a black guy and a white girl, and he goes to visit her family, and all this craziness ensues. It's hard to even articulate it. You gotta see it. The film doesn't come out until February, but you gotta see the trailer, because I'm not one that's into horror film. I like psychological thrillers, but I ain't never seen no mess like this before. When I saw this, I'm like, I was really scared.
I was scared. I was jumping. I was gasping. I was making all types of faces. I was uncomfortable watching it, and I just think it looks really good. I'm mad that I have to wait till February.
And it's just like I'm excited to see what black people do with the genre of horror, because we've never really experimented with that too much.
We haven't had that door open for us to do that. And based on what I see, it reminds me of something like The Shining, where it's just like really off the wall, and you can't really guess what's gonna happen because it's some shit you ain't never seen before.
No, but it's good.
It looks really good.
It's gonna be real good. I'm excited. Jordan Peele, you better do your thing.
I can't wait. You heard about Kim K getting robbed? I did. Did she really get robbed? I heard people saying that
I hear that
didn't.
It's staged. I'm not really sure. Honestly, I'm not really, too much involved with the Kardashians or anything like that. I'm more of a Kanye fan, and sometimes he really gets on my nerves.
Right.
But I am sympathetic to Kim in this situation. I don't think that anybody deserves to be put in that situation. I heard that she was gagged and tied up or like forced into the back, and she thought that she was going to be raped, and then she's like releasing off.
Really sad.
It's really sad, and I would hate to have that energy or that feeling pressed upon anybody. But I feel like we are in the times where we're gonna eat the rich.
Explain what that means.
Okay. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who is a thinker. I think he's French. I don't know, based on the name. But he had this notion back in the 1865s where he says, when the people shall have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich. And I think that people are impoverished. We're hungry. We also want the mobility that you are constantly flaunting on social media with your expensive surgeries to make you look black with your fat fake butts and all this stuff or whatever. We want, we're not... Were you offended by that?
I just wasn't ready.
Oh, okay. We're not taking no for an answer. Like, we're tired of waiting for permission. We're hungry, and we deserve to live like kings too. You know what I mean?
Agree. When you mentioned to me about Eat the Rich, it reminded me of The Purge, but just reverse. So The Purge, you guys probably have seen the movies or previews or whatever, where they have one day where you could commit any crime. And a lot of the movies, it shows, well, I only really saw the first one, and that one, it was like the rich people were safe, and the rich people, they were like rich white kids that went and wanted to kill all the black people, essentially, in the first one. And I think this scenario reminds me of it in the way of, okay, the poor people are like, okay, cool, we get to go commit the crimes, well, let's go get this money.
We gonna go eat the rich. We gonna go where we know the money is, and we gonna take it because we tired. Like you said,
we're hungry, and you guys are flashing it on Snapchat, you're flashing it on Instagram, and it's not hard to find people's addresses and stuff.
Especially
if you really want to.
Living your life out there the way the Kardashians do, and I'm not saying that they deserve it, but I think No, absolutely not. What I think will continue to happen, what we'll see as a trend, is that violence against rich people. Like, I think that we will continue to see that as long as the economy is so lopsided as it is. We're going to continue to see that until it's evenly distributed, perhaps. I don't know.
Who knows?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. That is our show today, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. It was so good to be back. We missed you guys last week. I am your host, Angie Skates. You can find me on Twitter at Angie_Skates and on the gram at Big_Ange.
And I'm your girl, Kales. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Urban Gypsy LA.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Hey.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.